Hi, welcome back to another important episode of Spit or Swallow with your favorite host, Hausa Chocolate. Today is just me. I'm gonna be the lecture. Okay, well, not really lecturing you guys, but this is just me and y'all having a one-on-one conversation. Is it even a conversation? I'm just talking to y'all about sex and mental health. I'm not going to go deep into like each challenge or each issue, but May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And, when we talk about sex, I feel like sometimes we try to separate mental health and mental wellness. And what I do, I'm in the sexual wellness space. And so I'm basically a marriage of mental health and sex. So I'm going to go through a couple of definitions, like working definitions that I think are really important and, kind of shape what I do and, my politics, my values, my passions about sex, mental health. Um, General definition for sex education. Sex education is an umbrella term for different types of educational measures that address a variety of sexual issues and aim to foster sexual literacy, which is kind of what we do here. It's like, okay, yes, we're having fun, we're laughing, kiki, but the purpose of the podcast is for us to learn. What's a sexual literacy? Literacy means the knowledge, attitudes, and skills necessary to protect and advance a person's sexual health, rights, and well being in a socially responsible and consensual way. And then sex education comes in two main forms as informal sex education provided by laypersons such as parents, peers through everyday conversations, and then formal sex education provided by trained sexual educators who offer counseling, courses, exhibition workshops. So that's basically what we're doing here. I think this is like a marriage of, casual stuff, but also by a professional, me. Um, so I want to talk about you know, sex therapy, right? And just even mental health in general. You know what mental health is like, your general state of mental well being. And a lot of times we're very reactive when it comes to treating mental health disorders that are connected to sex. I personally believe that if you're informed about, your sexual health, you're informed about you have proper sex education, then we don't have to get to the point where mental health or therapy or therapists only come in when trauma has happened, when you're going through something terrible. A lot of times we also neglect how your mental state affects your sex life, sexual functioning is a general part of, I always say the first thing is sex is biology, right? It's a general part of, life. It's same way there's sleep, it's the same way there's digestion, the same way there's sex. And for any part of your life to function properly, your mental health is extremely important, right? And they're linked. A lot of sex happens in the mind before it trickles down to the body. A lot of arousal happens in the mind. It's how, we talk about you having, for instance, it can be a man having an erection, it can be a woman or someone with a vulva having being wet to show that you're ready for sex, right? These are physiological responses to stimuli. But sometimes you can have blockers. Yeah, there's sometimes when like they say men have an average of like 11 erections a day, but there's sometimes when that the reason why you're not having erection, the reason why you're having erectile dysfunction, for instance, is because something is not right in your mind. And there are like four major approaches to treating erectile dysfunction. This is like a common sexual um disorder that men struggle with, and about three of them are really psychological approaches or psychoanalysis in some way, or they're giving you sometimes a CBT, sometimes they're giving you techniques like mindfulness. Sensitive focus is also really important, but then I don't want to go, like I said, I'm not going to go too in depth into treatments today. I'm just giving like a generalized conversation about how all of these can be linked. And so yes, the reason why you might have a man might struggle with erectile dysfunction is because of a blood flow issue into the male sex organ, but sometimes that also doesn't happen due to arousal. There's something somewhere up there that's not, that's causing there to be a disconnect between what is going on, the stimulus and that desired response. And so a lot of times sex and your mental health are really, really, really linked. It can, even for women as well, it's the same thing. It's like, okay, something as tiny as, well, I mean, it's not even tiny, birth control, right? Imagine you have a partner who, if you're a woman, you have sex with men, you have a partner who refuses outright you to wear a condom, and this person refuses to pull out. This is like, an abusive relationship. Even if you enjoy sex, you would generally be apprehensive because you know that every time you're having sex, there is that risk of you being pregnant. And so if you're not proactive enough, or it's not safe enough, or it's not an environment where, you can get long acting reversible contraceptives, or you know that you're not protected, you know that you're not safe, your body and your mind are not going to be inside, or in tune with what is happening. And so what then happens is the entire experience is already, shit from there. You might not enjoy it, you might not want to even partake in it as well, even if this person is your partner or your husband. I mean, I always say consent and safety need to happen in every um sexual situation. And sometimes, a lot of times, some people don't know what is happening to them is abuse, but your body knows. There's sometimes when we're not processing, the way we process things that happen to us may not exactly be how they are happening to you, right? There's your own body's idea of what is happening. It's the same way we talk about how emotions can be like, really layered. There's a feelings wheel. I can be I can be irritated or having an irritable reaction to something, but underneath that irritability is actually anger. And underneath that anger, I might actually be going through depression, but that's how it is manifesting in my behavior. That is how my body is explaining or showing the world that this is what is actually happening to me. And so if you want to have a good sex life, your mental state, your mental well-being, your mental health has to also be top notch, because it trickles down. Another thing is, medication as well. Medication affects your sex life. And unfortunately, there's sometimes the same way, I believe in holistic therapy. Yes, I believe in meditation. I believe in mindfulness. I believe in exercises. I believe in connecting with nature and all of those things. I believe in exercise, movement, the power of movement, and all of those things giving you that holistic approach to having a proper well-being. But medication is also important, and there's some people who, they're depressed, or they have anxiety, or they have other sides of other kinds of psychiatric disorders, and they actually need medication to survive. And unfortunately for them, the side effects of those medications can lead to reduced libido, can cause them to even be like, it's like, okay, somebody is maybe bipolar, for instance, and then they're on maybe lithium or whatever medication they give them. Some of the side effects might be they just have a reduced interest for connection, or for being with their partner, or for just sex in general. And unfortunately, you can't say, okay, some people do go off their medication, right? And they do find other methods to mitigate, what they go through. But it's not really always advisable, especially when you know that without your medication, the symptoms are severe. There are some people who, off their meds, they might attempt suicide. And so, in those areas, that's where you have to work with a therapist to find different methods that can help with your arousal, help with your general desire, adding novelty to your sex life. So, everything is kind of intertwined and is kind of linked. And just because something is presenting in the bedroom, or you're having this issue, even with another major disorder that women deal with, or sexual dysfunction, is pain when it comes to sex. And every type of pain is not always physical, right? Yes, sometimes some people need to see like they have pelvic pain, they need to see a pelvic floor specialist. There are people who dilators, for instance, if you're having painful sex, sometimes having different dilators can also help with that. And there's sometimes when there's just some pain that is caused through psychological means. Sometimes it's a manifestation of trauma. Sometimes people have gone through, things in the past that have made sex painful, or they've even just had partners who don't understand that, it takes some time to get your partner aroused. They have lubrication issues. Sometimes it's really in the mind. And so in those areas, those things can lead to having anxiety when it's time to have sex. Sometimes you just have that pain. And, a lot of treatments that would often come in, if they're seeing specialists, would still be things like mindfulness, things like learning how to calm your body or come into the moment, you know, minus other medical means or pain medication and things like that. For the most part, even stuff like vaginismus as well, a lot of it is teaching the person how to relax. And yes, you can teach somebody to relax by breathing and saying, okay, just, exhale, take a deep breath, belly breathing, and all of those do work. But a lot of times, if people have that apprehension in their mind, or the real reason is, oh, yes, I'm having this pain, and this pain started when, this happened to me, or, oh my God, but if I relax and I do this, then I have sex, then I'm no longer a virgin. So you see how everything, is just kind of one thing leads to another, leads to another. And this is where, therapy or counseling, all of these things come in. And then sex in general, obviously, it boosts your serotonin levels as well. And then if you have a partner, there's the oxytocin, all the cuddle hormones, all the happiness hormones that get released when you actually have sex, when you cuddle after sex. And then even stuff like dopamine, right? So dopamine is like the hormone that's connected to like rewards, like the reward center of the brain. And they tell you like dopamine happens when you're anticipating something good. If your sex life is spicy and exciting, just think of how you get excited when you have a sneaky link, or someone is coming over, or you have your partner there. Just the anticipation of good sex, makes people very excited. It's same way how, even though it's annoying, think of like your Nigerian co-workers. There's sometimes you come to work on Monday and shiny and just like, I know you had sex. What were you doing this weekend? Where are you coming from? Why are you glowing? People, you see how people have that pep in their step when they actually have good sex. Good sex is actually healing, especially for women and men alike too. When you have that autonomy, that bodily autonomy, where one, you can express yourself. So you know how people talk about self-actualization in terms of career. They talk about being your best self, living your best life. I believe in self-actualization in terms of your sex life. I believe in being sexually liberated enough to explore the fullness of who you are sexually, not just who I am as a whatever career I do, or as a sex therapist, or as a mental health professional, as a podcaster. Yes, reach the limits, but reach the limits in terms of your sex life as well. I always tell people like this is accessible pleasure in terms of you, in terms of your body, with your partners as well. It's literally free, and it's something that if you find someone to do, even with your own self, you can have your own sex bucket list. Like, okay, this year, this and this and this and this and this and this, these are the things that I'm going to do. And you make it a challenge. You discover what you like. There's so many communities. I mean, I'm always promoting kink on this podcast because I feel like that's such a huge way to explore, different types of dynamics of sexual relationships, of things that you like, different types of stimulus. Are you somebody who likes pain? Even the psychological benefits of BDSM and kink. There are people who heal and reclaim their body. So that's another thing about sexual trauma, often disconnects people from their body. It's kind of how people say God trigger warning when they get raped. They feel like they're not connected to their body. They feel like some part of them has been violated. And for some people, using kink, using BDSM is a way to get that autonomy back, is a way to say, I get to control what happens to me, what I like. It's a source of freedom for them. So, yeah, sex is all fun and games, and, you can use it for procreation, but it's also a lifestyle for many people. It's also healing in that, you can step in there, you can access pleasure, you can access intimacy, you can reach the actual peaks and limits of just your human experience. I always say it's a sensory experience. You have all of these neurons in your body, they can fire in so many ways. There's so many psychological benefits. You're generally happier. You feel in control of your life. It's a very, very important aspect. And people try to downplay it. So people act like, oh, pleasure is something that I should access when though I'm too busy now. I'm working. I'm looking for money. I don't have time for sex. Or oh, I beg. Even with age, people are like, when I was younger, I had time when I didn't have work. But it's like, nah, sex should be a part of your daily life, and it shouldn't only exist when you are married. Or okay, yeah, I'm married now, so I can have sex. It's like, no, if you want to have sex as much as you can, be as intentional about it as any other part of your life, and you actually see the effects on your mental health, because as I said, all the happiness hormones, but just feeling like you're in control of an aspect of your life is also something that makes you feel fulfilled. Still going down to the basis of like your attitudes, your thoughts, your values, how you even view sex, you know, a lot of it too is psychological, right? We talk about conditioning, we talk about societal norms, we talk about, oh yes, your pastor or your parents or your this or your that, they have told you sex is bad, or sex is a certain way, or sex is dirty, or this and that, or your general relationship with sex. And then when you're having sex, you're feeling guilty, or you're feeling guilty, or you're feeling bad. You know, a lot of work you would do to undo. When we say unlearn, you don't unlearn, in your body, you unlearn in your mind through your thought processes as well. You change your relationship and your dynamics with sex, with sexual health, with taking charge of your sex life, with being more proactive. And so, I feel like I've just been rambling a lot, Sha, but with these few points of mine, I hope that I've been able to convince and not confuse you that, sexual health, sexual wellness, sex, sexuality. Oh my God, I didn't even talk about sexuality, bruh, bruh. In fact, just give me 2 minutes. Let me dive into that real quick. It's also how you have a lot of sex therapists who are focused on queer spaces or queer people, LGBTQ friendly work. An important part of sexual wellness, even sexual health and reproductive health rights, aside pleasure, is giving every human being the space and the chance to be who they are, to express themselves. Expressing yourself is such a huge part of your mental health. Not being able to show up in the world how you are is linked to anxiety, is linked to depression. Not let's not even talk about people who are afraid for their lives, because we live in a transphobic, queerphobic, homophobic society. And so a huge part of being able to show up, not just even being able to show up, but also you as a person, allow people to show up in the world how they are, because you can be the reason with your violence, with your nasty tweets online, or your posts on Instagram. You can be the reason why somebody has depression. You can be the reason why, God forbid, somebody decides as they're going to end their lives, because they don't have the space and the safety to be who they are. And so being able to show up, not just in terms of having sex, but being able to show up in terms of your sexuality, and being like, okay, this is me, this is my place in the world, this is who I am, that is directly linked to your mental health, because that is who you are. Imagine just the gymnastics it takes to have to hide who you are from your family, from your friends. Everybody's laughing and saying, ha ha ha, oh yes, I fucked this babe's nyash, or whatever, whatever, whatever. Meanwhile, you're just like, okay, but I like nigga nyash. You can't be, you're hiding and stifling some parts of your personality. And so, of course, that is also bound to affect, your mental health. And so, yeah, that's basically a grand summary of some of the ways in which your sexual health, or your sex and your sexuality and your mental health are linked. They're, as far as I'm concerned, they are one and the same, and they affect each other. They're like this. It's like this infinity sign where they're just going in and out and round and round. And so, yes, take care of yourself, take care of your mental health, and take care of your sexual health. Be proactive about both of them, because they are intertwined. I wish you guys, a good sex life. I wish you guys an even better mental health, and I wish you more orgasms. Thank you for joining me on this nice little cute episode. Follow me at Hausa Chocolate. Follow the podcast at Space or Swallow Pod on TikTok and Instagram. Follow us at SOS Pod Official on Twitter. I will see you same time next week. Bye.